Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to Monetary Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen in front of you right now, today we're taking a closer look at the new Big Bad Workshop / Fresh Monkey Fiction, the Order of the Crimson Moon Major Noir figure. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know about this figure. So if you've been thinking about purchasing one for yourself, you've got some good thorough information to make a decision around. We'll kick things off by jumping back in time and taking a look at the packaging on the day that Major Noir arrived on my doorstep. Then we'll move into the figure himself, talk about the aesthetic and the visual experience, talk about the articulation and posability, have a good rundown of the accessories and determine whether they're added value, pop him next to a couple of other figures to get a sense of scale and how he displays up with other figures from the same line and other lines. And yeah, with all that said and done, you should have plenty of information to know whether this is a guy you want to crack your wallet or purse open for. So let's get into it and let's jump back in time to visit past Chris, taking a look at the box on the day it arrived. Here we go. Okay then, folks, well, here is the Major Noir in packaging, or the Black Major, as it's otherwise known. And it's consistent with the Operation Monster Force stuff, other than the fact, obviously, that they changed up the logo to now be the Order of the Crimson Moon, with the Crimson Moon logo here at the bottom. Name of the character up the side here, window showing off the figure. So for some reason, my Major Noir decided to arrive looking off to right there. Then on the back, we've got some artwork here by the wonderful Dana Black with some biographical text and either kind of lore text here to bring it to life. You can pause it and give that a read if you like. Got the cross promo of the other figures in the wave, and then all the logos. And then on the side, got more of the Dana Black artwork there. And there you go, folks. That's your packaging experience with Major Noir. So I'm going to go away and crack this bad boy open now. Get good and hands-on, get some man-child playtime in, pose him up, take some photos, display him out with some of my other Operation Monster Force stuff, and some of my G.I. Joe, and some of my Action Force, and so on and so forth, just get a feel for the figure in display, and I'll jot down a few review thoughts, so stick around. Future Chris is going to be back with you in 3, 2, 1... All right, then. So let's kick things off in the review section by talking about the visual experience. Let's get into the kind of aesthetic qualities of Major Noir here. And here's a full head-to-toe look to get us started. If you watch my Baron Ironblood, no, Baron Ironblood? Baron? Count Ironblood. You'll know that my motivation for picking up this Order of the Crimson Moon line is so that I can do the kit bashing. You know, I can lean into the similar but legally distinct echoes of the red shadows from the old Palatoy Action Force days. So, you know, I'm obviously clocking this guy. He's going to be my Black Major in the grand scheme of things, but we'll talk about him in the sense of being Major Noir to begin with. And here's your full head-to-toe look. Get in a bit closer and we'll take a look at the finer details, and we'll start with the head sculpt here. And yeah, the head sculpt's nice. I like the head sculpt. He's obviously evocative of a certain character, this head sculpt, and one of the things I will be doing, as I'm sure many of you will be doing, will be kit bashing this head onto the Count Iron Moon to make the Baron Ironblood. But yeah, in this setup now, yeah, it's decent. His facial features are really cool. He's got this kind of evil smirk thing going on, which I like. That gives it a bit of personality, a bit of character, bit of a raised eyebrow on this side. Paint applications are good. His little goatee beard and his evil, you know, his nefarious evil stash present and correct. Good eyeballs, good eyebrows. It definitely stands apart. Again, if you watch my Count Iron Moon review, the Count Iron Moon head was a bit of a disappointment. This one is not a disappointment. So we've got good sculpting all around, good facial features sculpted in there. Like you can see his cheeks and the furrowed brow and his ears and stuff, all very, very good. And then sculpted in the hair as well. With, I don't know if you can see it under the lights, but with a tiny bit of a sort of blue wash on it as well. A blue wash, he's had a blue rinse. Then coming down into the top piece of the jacket, this is reuse. We've seen this top jacket piece before on a number of Operation Monster Force and beyond, actually, and it's on the Soldier of Fortune Saboteur, for example, but with, you know, they've used this top piece a few times, so we know it's a good sculpt. They've got the belt piece coming across the front here, the little bandolier belt piece, and then the belt itself got painted buckles. It's strapped in under his epaulets. He's got this little bit of cord here, which is sculpted too. Got the little shirt collar pieces peeking out from inside his jacket there with the Crimson Moon logo on it, with a nice little paint application on the trim of the collar. It is a bit shiny. The colour's a bit shiny. The blacks, he's got a little bit of a case of shiny jacket syndrome going on there. And one other weird thing that I've noticed is that this pocket here seems to be a separate pocket piece that's been glued on the top, look. Can you see that there? Been glued on the top, whereas this one is sculpted onto the figure. And I know this jacket has it sculpted on as well, so I think maybe something to do with this extra piece that they've added across the chest there, maybe? Anyway, I don't know. But it's a different black. Can you see the black tones differ on the piece there, which is a little bit weird. And then just to reiterate something that I mentioned when I reviewed the Count Iron Moon, Baron Iron Moon, anyway, is that a little bit disappointed that some of the bits that we've seen from earlier Operation Monster Force figures aren't present, like paint applications on the pocket studs, for example, and the buttons up the jacket, or maybe a bit of a trim around the collar, all these buttons at the top on his epaulets. So, yeah, that's just an observation there. We've got these lovely uniformal elements, though, like the little red and white trim across the top of his shoulder there, little red and white trim around the wristband on his coat. Textured details in here. You can see the like creases and folding and stuff, bunching up here by the belt line, little creases and folds around by the elbow section and stuff, which is nice to see, and then where it's pulled tight to be buttoned in across the jacket. See more of that detail there across the back, more of that fabric detailing in the coat piece here. Then we've got the rest of the coat coming down under the belt, which is a second kind of rubbery piece that they've put over the top of the main figure here. I've not tried to. It is a separate piece. I've not tried to, but I imagine if you were inclined to do so, you could easily remove this with a bit of heat and pulling it down over the legs. The belt is attached on with like a little pop stud underneath there, so that's kind of what's holding it in place, more or less. As you can see, the rubbery black is very different to the rest of the black on the arms and on the body and on the legs too, which just stands out a little bit. It does affect the visual experience quite a bit, actually. This big piece here, they have sculpted in some pockets and some seams and stuff, and they've cut away at the sides to help you with your kind of leg articulation in the mix. And it's fairly flexible. It's just, it does get in the way a little bit, but I'll talk about that with articulation later. But the main thing is it just stands out, really stands out, the sort of different color tones, even though it's supposed to be the same jacket. So what it does is it makes it look like he's wearing a skirt, just a long skirt under his belt, rather than a continuation of the coat coming through, which is a shame. Got the same boots here. We've seen these, many times. The regulation issue, Crimson Moon boots that they're all wearing. Nice bit of uniformality there, and got that nice kind of shiny, leathery look. Little knife sheath there on the side. Again, we've seen this a few times in Operation Monster Force. A little ankle sheath for holding his knife in it, obviously. So overall, aesthetically, he's all right. He's decent. The main thing is just like this whole coat piece here, the top, really shiny top piece, then the really rubbery bottom piece with the kind of different black tones on it there. I didn't pick up the jetpack sleepwalker, the what's it called, aerial assault sleepwalker from the second wave. But what I do seem to recall from the pictures that I saw that the tone of the coat matched on that. So if anyone did pick it up and wants to let me know in the comments down below their thoughts and feelings, whether the color tone difference is consistent or whether it's not, it's inconsistent with this figure here. I'd love to know. It just felt like with the other Sleepwalkers, really, they dry brushed it over a bit and gave it a little bit of kind of mud spatter and battle damage on the aerial assault Sleepwalker dude. So it didn't stand out as much, whereas they don't seem to have done much of that with this line. There doesn't seem to be a lot of additional paint applications. It's quite limited. So he looks good. I mean, I love the head sculpt. The head sculpt's really working for me, and the overall experience is fine. There is some element of kind of toy tube and nitpicking here for the purposes of filling content, but overall, I actually like him. He's certainly hitting the nostalgia vibes for the Black Major. Of course, the key difference there is the Black Major didn't have a long coat, which is why I'm saying if you were inclined, I think you can remove this bottom piece. It's just sort of standard Sleepwalker Trooper legs underneath there. I don't know how it looked with the jacket over the top, though. Right, there you go. There's the aesthetic. There's the visual experience, folks. So let me know in the comments your thoughts on that. But I'll move now into articulation and posability. And just before I get into the articulation, folks, what I will say is it's pretty standard Operation Monster Force Fresh Monkey Fiction articulation fare. So if you're less interested in knowing about the articulation, you've had one in hand before, then avail yourself of the chapters. I've put timestamps in down below. You can jump ahead to the section where I take a look at the accessories and added value. However, if this is the first Fresh Monkey Fiction Operation Monster Force stroke subline, The Order of the Crimson Moon by Big Bad Workshop that you've seen, or you're interested to know if there's any particular quirks, stick around. I'll run you through the articulation, and I'm going to start up top with the head. And what we've got is a ball at the base of the skull, ball at the base of the neck, and a hinge on the neck as well there. So you've got really good down, you've got really good up, you've got full 360 exorcist swivel, you've got tilt and whatnot. It's all good and dandy there. Nice movement in the head area. Coming down into the shoulders, we've got a butterfly joint that's underneath the jacket here, and then a peg and a hinge. So you can shuffle back and forward. The jacket doesn't get in the way of the butterfly joint at all. And then go full 360 all the way around, or hinge him out and T-shape him like so. Although I am just reminded something I did want to mention. There's a little red plastic piece under here that stands out sometimes when you put his arms up. I meant to mention that when I was talking about the visual experience, and I forgot. So I'm bringing it up now. Then you've got the swivel at the top of the bicep and tricep. You've got the pinless double elbow that will get you up to there, and then pegged in hands that can move at the wrist point. And these two grippy hands that are on him out the box have forward and back hinges, but there's a wide range of hand swaps with some have got forward and back hinges, some of them have got up and down hinges depending on the hand they are. Then coming down into the torso, obviously we've got these the jacket piece over the top here, but I'm pretty sure there's something under there. There's a barbell joint and a ball joint in the waist, I think. It doesn't feel like a hinge. It doesn't like clicky clack like a hinge. So I think it's a barbell joint and a ball joint. The barbell at the top here has a little bit of motion at the top there, but it's fairly restricted by the jacket. But the ball joint at the waist has got plenty of movement because the coat is two separate pieces there. Look, so you got a lot of movement at the ball joint, but the barbell is fairly limited at the top there. Going down into the legs, it's the standard sleepwalker leg, so it's the drop-down joint in the groin and hip there with the ball at the end. Obviously, this long coat piece restricts your movement a great deal, so you do have quite a bit of forward motion, but it's held back by the coat. You can get out to Russian ballet about there through the limits of the cuts down the side of the coat, so the movement is there. You've certainly got your kind of walky movement in there, look, no problem. There is also a swivel at the top of the thigh that you can't see because of the coat, but trust me, it's there. You got the pinless double knee. They'll get you up to there again just to see how kind of the coat situation gets in the way, and then the shape of the coat looks all weird, and so if you're taking photos, it's a bit odd. Got a swivel at the top of the boot, and then the hinge and rocker there on the ankles, giving you your feet motion. So yeah, he articulates fine. I mean, the Press Monkey Fiction stuff is up to contemporary standard with butterfly shoulders, ball joints in the waist, etc., etc. The main thing, as I said, is the leg articulation is somewhat restricted by the coat. I suppose it depends what you're trying to pose him into. There wasn't a great deal of like super action poses I was trying to do with him. My imagination was driving me more to pointing and commanding, very casual, grizzled veteran kind of standing, shooting type of stuff. I wasn't really going for super dynamic poses, but if you did want to do some more dynamic poses, you'd have to really fiddle about and work with that bottom jacket piece. I will give you a little anecdote though, folks. As you can see here, while I was articulating him around just for this video, although it has also happened previously, this butterfly joint on this side keeps popping out. I mean, I can force it back in, but yeah, that doesn't happen very often, does it? Okay, so aside from that, I'll give it a thumbs up on articulation. Is pretty decent stuff. There you go. Right, okay, let's now get into the accessory selection, shall we? And to get us started on this section, we've got a head swap and a set of hand swaps to kick things off, where there's the kind of werewolf vibe thing going on. So I've not dived deep into the lore, the Crimson Moon lore, but there is a whole thing about werewolves. They all seem to have werewolf head swaps and whatnot. Is that kind of monster forcey, kind of supernatural, occulty kind of thing they're obviously leaning into. So you can see there's a head and a neck swap here to turn him into a werewolf, and then you've got the clawed hands, and then these kind of grippy, grabby hands here in the wolf design. The sculpt is good. It's nice. I like the dry brush over the top of the fur and things to bring it to life. You can really see it on the back of the hands, for example, there, and down the side here, which is really lovely. The paint applications across the face, like with the teeth and the eyes, is a little bit shaky, a little bit splodged on. Not fantastic like around the nose and that, but it's fine. It's that's a little bit of toy tube and nitpickiness, but it is a bit splodged on, but it still looks pretty decent for sure. So if you were unlike me and the kind of vestigial nostalgic echoes of the Red Shadow stuff isn't what's attracted you to this, and it's more about the kind of the supernatural occulty Operation Monster Force kind of vibe thing, then you got this option, which I think is quite nice. It's always good to have options. Then we have another head swap and neck swap here, which is the Sleepwalker helmet with the Red Shadow symbol on the front rather than the Whatever. No, that's the Crimson Moon symbol. Anyway, you know what I mean. Rather than the Operation Monster Force, the further in time iteration. Stop waffling, Chris. Get on with it. I like this helmet. I said so when I reviewed the Sleepwalkers. I like it so much that I've decided just to stick with Sleepwalkers. I haven't picked up any of the kind of red shadowy figures that we've got in this wave now. With the long coat, is really evocative. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that anime Wolf Brigade. It's got a real Wolf Brigade vibe, but if you wanted to pick up a couple, you could use this as a kind of like a commander leader in the field, team leader or whatever, that kind of thing. So there you go, there's the head swaps. But one thing I did want to mention, and I've mentioned it before with Operation Monster Force and Fresh Monkey Fiction, the neck swapping is a real pain in the ass. I just can't do it without applying a load of heat. There's no natural neck popping off at all. The head comes off, the neck stays, except with one figure from my Soldier of Fortune, which I don't want to do neck swapping with, and the neck keeps popping off, which is annoying. But broadly speaking, I find the neck swapping a real pain in the backside. I have to keep applying heat over and over and over and over again, which might be why the butterfly joint keeps popping out, because obviously I'm sort of blasting heat in that approximate area. But nonetheless, this is the accessory rundown. So yeah, 2 decent head swaps and some hand swaps for the wolf to give it a whole other vibe. Jumping back to the main head, then you can see that he's got a hat to pop on the top of his, a little cover there. The hat we've seen before, General Brown's got it. The Baron's got it. This is obviously a different paint application. It's in black with the red trimming and the red version of the Crimson Moon logo on the front. I've mentioned it before. I mention it again. This front piece is like a removable. So the badge at the front is removable. It's held on with a little pop stud through the middle there. It's good. It's fine. If a little bit oversized, I've mentioned this before, but it doesn't look too bad on this one compared to some of the other figures that I've seen this hat on. I like to have it. I don't know if you can see that. Just ever so slight jaunty angle. I feel like with the raised eyebrow, you need a slight jaunty angle on it. But it certainly really finishes off the image and definitely, is super evocative of that sort of, World War II Axis of Evil kind of vibe with the cap on the top there for sure. Then the Major has a weapons loadout. He's got this little kind of sci-fi pistol thing here with a magazine and then his little dagger as well. To start with the pistol, this has appeared on a couple of figures. The Wolfsbane's got it as well, for example. I like these. I like that they've kind of got that kind of slightly science fiction, otherly movie style design, that it's not just like a straight up, it's got a cartoony comic book vibe to it, which I really, really appreciate. This is Gridiron Studios, of course. You've got this lovely wash over the top to make it come to life and not just look like a big lump of grey plastic, which is really good to see. The magazine is removable, like so. What I will say is the magazine sits real loose in there. I end up knocking it out all the time, and because it's just a tiny little magazine, I can see that getting lost to the sands of time. No holster to store it on the figure, though, which is a bit of a bugger. And the dagger's fine. We've seen this numerous times in the line. Appreciate the fact that they've gone for a different colour plastic on the blade, although it's not quite metallic enough for my tastes. And then the sculpted handle on there, which is all good and dandy. And this fits on the sheath, the ankle sheath that I showed you earlier, like so. And to go along with the pistol, we've got a couple of blast effects that we see as standard with the Fresh Monkey Fiction figures. We've got the shooty blast effect, which is in that nice kind of translucent orange and with a little touch of red in there, which looks nice. And then the after-firing smoke effect, barrel smoke effect as well. We've seen these several times. I've already got quite a large stash of them already myself from the more selective collecting of Fresh Monkey Fiction figures that I do. So if you've been picking up everything, you've probably got a bucket ton of these now in your collection. And then again, as standard with the Fresh Monkey Fiction figure lines, we've got a wide range of hand swaps. That's in addition to the 2 sets of wolf hand swaps that we have in there that I showed you earlier. So we've got a right and left evil claw, we've got a right and left gun holding trigger finger set of hands, 2 closed fists, right and left, and then a pointy commanding finger, in addition to the 2 grippy hands that have come on the figure as standard out the box. So yeah, always pleased to see a wide range of hand swaps. Really opens up the world of possibility with your posing and the way you might display him. And of course, it's really great when you're taking photographs and trying to do different things. So always happy to see that. And then finally, we've got the foot stand. Again, this is coming as standard with the figures. Just a straight up, seen it before, kind of foot stand with right and a left foot peg. The logo, the Order of the Crimson Moon logo across the front there, but a standard plastic mould. One thing I have been saying about this foot stand, I can imagine if you collect Operation Monster Force, you've got those great kind of gravestone footstands with the name of the figure printed across the front. You might find these a little bit of a disappointment, you know, and a bit of an inconsistency if you're displaying the two lines, which are part of the same wider thing, next to each other. I don't tend to use footstands, so that bothers me a little less. This is just a useful little accessory to throw in that I sometimes call upon if I'm doing like one-legged poses or whatever. But if you're displaying them using the footstands, I could see that being a little bit of a disappointment. However, all that said, obviously great that they throw them in. I think every action figure line should give you footstands as standard to help you out with your posing, if nothing else, let alone your displaying. So yeah, the accessory selection is good. I'm always, at minimum, meeting decent and edging up to good or great when it comes to the Fresh Monkey Fiction stuff. You know, any line that's giving you options and things to do with your figure so that you can play with them, display them differently, engage with them in different ways, take different types of photos, all that kind of good stuff appeals to me. So, you know, a simple head swap and hand swap to kind of give it a whole different vibe and lean into it a different way, range of hands for different poses, you know, it works for me for sure. Now, I'm obviously here because I want to turn him into my Black Major and do the head swap, which I'll show you in a second. But if you were leaning into the Operation Monster Force, or you wanted some, you know, creatures of the night kind of thing going on, or whatever, you know, you got options, and I really appreciate that. That's, you know, leaning into the man-child playtime, and I'm all for it. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Yeah, I think the accessory selection is good. Right, okay. So let's now take a look at the Major here next to a couple of other figures, shall we? All right, folks, well, to get us started then, here is the Major next to the red uniformed Sleepwalker, who I'm obviously using as my avatar, my cipher for the Red Shadow Trooper. Been kitting him out with this Valaverse AK-47 because it's more reminiscent of the weapon that the old figures used to carry. Here he is next to the black uniform Sleepwalker, and you can see kind of, look how different the jacket tones, the black jacket tones are, and how they match top to bottom on there. However, if you were so inclined, you could obviously use the head swap from the Major on this one to, you know, to have the Crimson Moon logo on the front. Of course, it won't match on the collars there, but you can take that armband off and change the head if you were so inclined. Here he is next to Eraser from Wave 2. Here he is next to Wolfsbane from this same wave here. I'm obviously subbing Wolfsbane in for the Red Jackal here from the Red Shadows. In the, you know, again, the similar but legally distinct space. He'll be my next review, incidentally, from this wave. And here he is next to the Count Iron Moon. Or is it Baron Iron Moon? No, Count Iron Moon. God, I keep getting it wrong all the way through the video. With his head and hat as comes out the packaging, but I'll do the head swap in just a sec. So yeah, there we go. Do the head swap. You've got Black Major from the Red Shadows here on the left. It's the Major Noir body with the Count's head and hat on him. And then your Baron Ironblood is really that core head there. I've popped the hat on just for my own fun. I've not done the zombie werewolf that gives me the bucket head, because it was just too much, guys. Just too much. I couldn't afford it. I didn't want to do it, buy a whole extra figure just for a helmet. So if anyone out there who's bought multiples of those zombie werewolves and has got a spare head, wants to gift me one or discuss a reasonable cost of living acknowledging deal on that, then drop me a line on Instagram at TrueMr6. All right then, folks, well, here is the Major then going around on the turntable so you can get a 360 view of the figure while I offer up some final thoughts. And really, I'm like, yeah, he's okay. He's all right. He's decent. The nostalgia and the firm desire I had to get these figures to kit bash up that strong nostalgic childhood memory, revisit that of the Red Shadows as a UK Action Force collector, and from being a Battle Action Force comic book reader, possibly taints my view a little bit, because what I will say, and I mentioned this with the Count as well, is that some of those slight attention to detail bits that we've seen with the Operation Monster Force previous waves, with dry brushes, washes, paint decos, attention to detail around, like, you know, color balance and stuff, has been better, and this is not up to the same standard. It definitely sort of stands out as being a little bit squiffier on that front. But god damn, I mean, they do have a great deal of shelf presence, and of course, when I put them all together as the Baron and the Major and the Red Shadow and the Red Jackal, they're really good. I'm just sitting there looking at them going, oh man, that's awesome. So, you know, take from that what you will. Yeah, I think I just want to acknowledge and put out there that my nostalgic desire to have these types of characters in my hand in the 6-inch plastic form may also be influencing the way I review the figure, which I think is reasonable. So there we go. Okay, well, but of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Go and check out the Count Iron Moon review if you haven't done already, and keep an eye out on the channel for Wolfsbane coming down the pipeline in the next couple of days. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. If you have found this useful, if it has helped you make a purchase decision, then hit a like, subscribe to the channel if not already subscribed to all that good stuff. But all that really remains to say is I hope you have a great day, have yourselves a great week, and come back around for another video sometime soon. It'd be my pleasure to have you. All right, take it easy, folks.